लिमिटेशन एंड इश्यूज, तो हमने डिस्कस कर लिया था, हमें लिखना था। चलिए start writing then everyone. The heading was Parliament, and within this write down the Parliament of India. The Parliament of India is the center of governance. Parliament of India is the center of governance in Westminster. In Westminster model of government. Westminster is the place in London where they have their Congress, basically their Parliament. तो उसी के नाम से बोलते हैं Westminster. Governance in Westminster model of government within bracket parliamentary democracy. Within brackets parliamentary democracy. Full stop. Article 79. Article 79 2. Article 1 double. Article 79 2. Article 122. 122 in part 5th. In part 5th of the Constitution. Part 5th of the Constitution deals with the organization, competition, composition क्यों आएगा? Organization, composition, duration, organization, composition, duration, and so on of the Parliament of India. So on of the Parliament of India. Full stop, subheading. Structure of the Parliament. Structure of the Parliament within the side down. It is composed of three parts. Is composed of three parts. Number one, the President of India. The President of India. Number two, Rajya Sabha. Number two, Rajya Sabha, put a hyphen, upper house / second chamber. Upper house / second chamber / house of elders / council of states. So these all are the names of Rajya Sabha basically. Upper house, second chamber, house of elders, council of states. Next, Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, put a hyphen, write down. House of people. House of people / lower house / first chamber / popular house / house of the representatives. House of the representatives. Full stop. Now put a heading, Lok Sabha. Put a heading, Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, write down. Lok Sabha consists of The directly elected consists of the directly elected representatives. Directly elected representatives of the people. Representatives of the people, full stop. The maximum strength is fixed at maximum strength is fixed at 552. Full stop. Out of this 530 are the representatives. 530 are the representatives of the states and 20 are from UTs. 20 are from UTs with 2 Anglo-Indians. Full stop. Next para. The current strength of the House is 543. Strength of the House is 543. Full stop. Since 2020, out of these, there are 530 representatives from states. 530 representatives from states and 13 representatives from UTs. 13 representatives from UTs with no Anglo-Indian. With no Anglo-Indian as the nominated member. No Anglo-Indian as the nominated member. Full stop. Now put a subheading, philosophy of Lok Sabha. Philosophy of Lok Sabha. Within the side down, the Lok Sabha is based on the idea. The Lok Sabha is based on the idea of one MP. Idea of one MP per constituency. One MP per constituency. Full stop. Moreover, each constituency shall represent a roughly equal population. Full stop. For that purpose, they are redrawn. that purpose they are redrawn periodically. They are redrawn periodically. Full stop. Next item, delimitation in Lok Sabha. Next heading is delimitation in Lok Sabha. Delimitation Lok Sabha में लिखिए under Article 81 and 82. Under Article 81 and 82, the political boundaries of the Lok Sabha constituencies. The political boundaries of the Lok Sabha constituencies shall be redrawn after every census. Shall be redrawn after every census by a law of parliament. By a law of parliament. Full stop. Next para में लिखिए the parliament passes laws known as delimitation act. Known as delimitation act that creates a delimitation commission. That creates a delimitation commission. Full stop. The members and the qualification of members. The members and the qualification of members is decided by the Delimitation Act. Is decided by the Delimitation Act. Full stop. Next para again. Next para में लिखिए so far India has conducted delimitation exercise. India has conducted delimitation exercise in 1952, 1962, 1972 and 2002. 4 ईयर है, 10-10 साल के गैप पे हैं. ऑब्वियसली बात है 1951 में सरकार बनी थी पहली भारत में, तो ऑब्वियसली बात है 52 में ही हो पाएगा. उसके बाद 10-10 साल 3 बार करो तो फिर 2002 याद रखो. ऐसा याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं, बट ऑल रिमेंबर कि 2026 में दोबारा होगा. दैट इज द कंसर्न. फुल स्टॉप. The next delimitation will take place in 2026. The next delimitation will take place in 2026. As per the 84th amendment. as per the 84th amendment to the constitution. 84th amendment to the constitution. Now put a subheading. Within this, put a subheading: issues of delimitation. Issues of delimitation between north and south. Issues of delimitation between north and south. Within side round, the north and south. The north and south in the north and south differs in their socio-economic conditions. Differs in their socio-economic conditions. Full stop. The north has high TFR. The north has high TFR within bracket, total fertility rate. Total fertility rate, comma, while the southern states have a low TFR, LOW, have a low TFR because of the better family planning. Because of the better family planning by investing in health and education. By investing in health and education, comma, particularly for girls. Full stop. Next para. Every time the delimitation happens, comma, it shifts power. To the north because the number of seats of a region depends upon the population. Full stop. So basically delimitation disincentivize the socioeconomic efforts. By the states. Full stop. ठीक है, तो वैसे राज्यसभा में होता है तो राज्यसभा में सीट्स आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द पॉपुलेशन. लोकसभा में तो सीट्स एंटायर इंडिया इज कंसिडर्ड लाइक वन कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी, सीट्स आर डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड, बट नॉनदलेस पॉपुलेशन जहाँ ज्यादा होगी वह सीटें बढ़ जाएंगी, इसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. तो यहाँ तो नहीं हो पाएगा, यहाँ पे वी कैन नॉट इम्प्लीमेंट दैट कंपोजिट मैट्रिक्स, दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल इन लोकसभा। वो लोकसभा में द एंटायर कंट्री इज कंसिडर्ड लाइक वन टेरिटरी, स्टेट टेरिटरी काउंट नहीं होती है लोकसभा में, एंड राज्यसभा में इशू है, तो राज्यसभा में दैट आइडिया कैन वर्क, लोकसभा में तो नहीं कर सकता, लोकसभा में दिस विल रिमेन द प्रिंसिपल। ठीक है, चलिए अब नेक्स्ट राइट डाउन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ द हाउस। लोकसभा की हम बात कर रहे हैं और इट इज अप्लाइड टू राज्यसभा एज वेल। ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ द हाउस, so let's see the organization of the house. The first common question is, I think we have discussed this, that to the idea, liberty is where law is silent and more no law, no liberty. We have discussed this. And I told you there, that's why we have sessions of parliament, not a continuing session. So now we will understand what is this drama. First is constitution of the house. Means when the house will be constituted. अब यहाँ पे basically the prime minister tell that to the president. अब this is the problem. Why this is the problem? Because ये तार शायद टूट सकता था. ठीक है. Why this is the problem? This is the problem because मैंने आपको बताया what is the role of parliament? Two roles. First, make law to govern everyone. Second, keep an eye on the government. Now, government can decide when the constitution of the house will happen. So, imagine yourself as the prime minister not willing. इसमें इस क्लास में नहीं से somebody different class में they asked a question that if Lok Sabha weekend batch में they asked the girl, she asked the question, sir, if UK में parliament is sovereign, then parliament can do anything. The other institution does not mean anything. I said in theory yes, in reality no. Here understand how and why. Even though UK में parliament is sovereign, but I told you there is something called ethics and morality in common languages. Just because parliament has power, it does not mean it can do anything. People will protest. I have always told you, it doesn't matter what you do. You violate a law, you keep a law, कोई मतलब नहीं है, until unless the people perceive it as fair, just and reasonable. ये सबसे important है. जैसे मान लेते हैं, same case, normal case लेते हैं, then we will discuss this. मान लेते हैं that there is a dog on the street, you kick it. So of course, people will say it's a bad thing, and you know there is a Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, in that you can be prosecuted. But now imagine a case that dog is about to launch an attack on a small kid, a toddler. In that case, you kicked it. Nobody will object. Incidence is same. The dog has been kicked. But depending upon the people's perception of what is just, what is not, crime changes. जबकि law में तो safe लिखा है. दोनों केस में law equal लगना चाहिए. But in one case, nobody will file a petition. In another case, people will file a complaint to the police. Even police will take cognizance. लेकिन दूसरे केस में nobody will take cognizance. जबकि दोनों केस में the law has been violated. That is what ethics and morality means. It's very powerful. लोग इसे मजाक में ले लेते हैं, खासकर some scholars. But it is indeed powerful. If you have proper ethics and morality, you can make any institution bow in front of you. That we saw the case, if you remember, contempt of court, Prashant Bhushan case. That's exactly what Gandhi did to British Empire. Nonetheless, having said that, अब यहाँ पे क्या issue है? That Prime Minister recommend to the President. Constitution says the President shall constitute the House. And we know from the constitutional position of President does nothing on his own. So basically, Council of Minister, basically Prime Minister, advise the President and then President convenes the House. अब ठीक है, अब problem क्या है? That executive has the power to constitute legislature. So if executive want to evade accountability, it can constitute legislature never. Now compare two incidents. Corona period में UK में the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson of his time, UK Prime Minister dissolved the House. Same, वहाँ पे भी same, because we borrowed this from them. So UK Prime Minister recommended the monarch to dissolve the House. Just we can, our Prime Minister recommend the President. So the monarch dissolved the House. It was challenged before the Supreme Court of UK. जबकि who is supreme in UK? Parliament. The Supreme Court of UK declared that the government cannot end the session of the house at its whims and fancies. Doesn't matter what is going on. Simply word में government ने बोला reconvene the house of parliament and you cannot end it. तो कोई भी reason रहा हो. Compare that with India. क्योंकि इंडिया में you have something called Supreme Court of India, which is way powerful. मैंने आपको बताया था. It is the most powerful court on this earth. And that court did not intervene. There were a lot of petitions filed in Supreme Court that the government is not having a session. Session of what? Session of Lok Sabha. So that Rajya Sabha also convening the parliament so that we can discuss Corona. Opposition demand कर रहा था कि we want to discuss Corona and government's effort. फायदा क्या होगा? Everything goes on record. मैंने आपको बताया था everything in parliament goes on record and parliament has the power of contempt. Government did not convene the house because it said that Corona may spread. Corona was not spreading when you were having political party rallies. Rallies में प्राइम मिनिस्टर वाले देखो कितने लोग आए हैं, जहां जहां मेरी आंखें जाते हैं लोग ही लोग हैं. So when the people are there, then there was a joke around at that point of time that Corona comes everywhere except in rallies. This became a joke of the time. So compare two institutions, Supreme Court of UK, Supreme Court of India, Indian Supreme Court, which is more powerful than UK, yet UK Supreme Court can order something Indian Supreme Court did not. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा Indian Supreme Court should, because this is not Supreme Court's role. But nonetheless, the UK Supreme Court protected the liberty and the right of the people. The difference, they have fought for this value. होगा समझाया था, something you fight for, you respect. India में problem क्या है? Indian Constitution is a superimposed constitution. It was borrowed from various sources and made by the people who were Western educated, urban elite or rural men basically. They made this constitution. That's why there is a mismatch. The constitution is modern, but the society is traditional. We understood this concept called overdeveloped. समझा हुआ है हमने. So thank God, but we put a condition here. The condition is 6 months. The constitution says that the president shall convene the session of the parliament, not expiry of the 6 months. मतलब the maximum delay the executive can have in the session of parliament is 6 months only. तो ये हमने बहुत अच्छा किया था. अब इसमें रिफॉर्म्स क्या चाहिए? एक रिफॉर्म that similar provision we will study in case of national emergency. National emergency में ये था पहले, before Indira Gandhi. When Indira Gandhi imposed, the rule was once it is you impose national emergency, President of India imposed national emergency. Once it is approved by आपका parliament, it continues forever. You do not require to renew it every time, and it was approved by simple majority. We understand simple majority. But after Indira Gandhi's action, the constitution was amended and we inserted strong provisions that approval of emergency requires a special majority and it has to be renewed after every, I think, 6 months. It must be renewed after every 6 months, every time, special majority. And one thing, Lok Sabha has the power. If 1/10 of the MPs of Lok Sabha gives a memo to the speaker if the parliament in session or the president if parliament not in session, then the president must convene the house. Must, ये important word है. मतलब who gets the power now? Opposition. 1/10 member of the parliament, it means of course opposition. So 1/10 opposition जुगाड़ लेगी. If 1/10 member of the parliament gives a notice to the president, a request to the president if house is not in session, or to the speaker if house is in session but sitting is not happening. दोनों केस में क्या होगा? The speaker will constitute a sitting if house is in session, or the president will constitute the parliament. What does this constitution mean? Basically, whenever the term of the parliament comes, few months before that, the president sends invitation, written invitation. President sends invitation to every MP in the country. It is sent to their house. President of India invites them to come to Delhi. But understand, Constitution does not talk about Delhi. Constitution simply says that the session of the parliament shall happen at a place as specified by the president. आपके घर पे भी हो सकता है session. So that was the logic that was said when new parliament was made. There was a comment. You have made the parliament, what about democracy? because it is not the parliament, the house of the parliament, the building is not compulsory for session. Session can happen anywhere in India. आपके घर पे करवा सकते हैं हम सेशन. जैसे रेसिडेंस में हुआ था, मुझे याद नहीं है, हुआ होगा शायद स्टार्टिंग में हुआ होगा. सेशन आई डोंट थिंक सो ऐसा हो सकता है, एक बार देख लेते हैं, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा रेफरेंस याद नहीं है. ऐसा तो कुछ दिख नहीं रहा मुझे. चलो कोई नहीं, देख लेंगे अगर ऐसा कुछ हुआ होगा. ज्यादा मुझे याद आ रहा है ऐसा नहीं हुआ है फिलहाल, कोई बात नहीं, बट नॉनदलेस हो सकता है. प्रेसिडेंट हाउस तो वैसे ठीक नहीं है, बिकॉज एग्जीक्यूटिव के घर में आप लेजिस्लेचर का सेशन थोड़ा गड़बड़ लगता है, सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर के खिलाफ हो जाएगा ये. बट नॉनदलेस होने को कहीं भी हो सकता है. इट कैन हैपन एट एनी प्लेस. पार्लियामेंट ऑफ द हाउस ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट इज नॉट कंपल्सरी. बट नॉनदलेस टू प्रॉब्लम हमने समझी. पहला ये दैट द एग्जीक्यूटिव हैज द पावर टू कॉन्स्टिट्यूट लेजिस्लेचर, ये गलत है. और एग्जीक्यूटिव को नहीं होनी चाहिए पावर. किसको होनी चाहिए? अपोजिशन को देनी चाहिए. जैसे हैपेंस इन केस ऑफ इमरजेंसी, द अपोजिशन कैन 1/10 of the MP can give a notice to the president and president must constitute the house. National emergency case में same we have to amend constitution now, and we should put if 1/10 of the MPs gives a notice to the president or to the speaker if house is in session, then it must be convened. इससे फायदा क्या होगा? If there is any like corona like situation, Ukraine war, whatever, then opposition can convene the session of the house. मैंने आपको बताया था गवर्नमेंट इज द मोस्ट हैप्पी पर्सन when parliament does not function. उनको तो मजा आ जाता है, because less number of parliament session मतलब less accountability. जितने सेशन होंगे उतने सवाल होंगे, और जितने सवाल होंगे उतने जवाब होंगे, और सब रिकॉर्ड पे जाएगा. ठीक है, तो दैट्स अ गुड थिंग नॉनदलेस. तो दिस रिफॉर्म वी नीड हियर. क्लियर है? 3 सेशन है, पर वो फिक्स नहीं है, वो एग्जीक्यूटिव के विल पे डिपेंड करता है. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऐसा कुछ नहीं करता. कैसे सिंपल कहता है कि 6 महीने में एक सेशन होना चाहिए. 6 महीने में एक सेशन होना चाहिए. अब वो कब होगा, कैसे होगा, क्या होगा, वो सरकार के ऊपर होता है. हमने वैसे फिक्स कर लिया कि 3 सेशन हम करेंगे, लेकिन वो भी कंपलसरी नहीं है. कोरोना पीरियड में नहीं हुआ था. कोरोना पीरियड में 6 महीने तक कोई सेशन नहीं हुआ था, स्पेशल सेशन. तो वो ये सब ड्रामे क्यों? तो सरकार के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, द एग्जीक्यूटिव कैन डिसाइड व्हेन टू हैव द सेशन ऑफ पार्लियामेंट. गलत है. हो सकता है किसी जमाने में ये सही रहा होगा, बट मैंने आपको बताया था बिकॉज अर्लियर लीडर वर एथिकल एंड आइडियलिस्ट. उनको उम्मीद नहीं थी कि इंदिरा गांधी टाइप के लोग, और कुछ लोग पावर में, उनका नाम नहीं लेंगे अभी हम, वैसे लोग आ जाएंगे. ठीक है, चलिए जो भी है, बट वी नीड टू अमेंड. सजेशन यही है, we need to amend the constitution and we need to change this, and we should include the provision that if 1/10 of the MP, any MP, if they give a notice to the president, then the president must constitute the house within 14 days. That should be the logic here. So constitution समझ में आया. अब आते हैं अगला. The next organization में word is session. So what is session? A session basically means from first sitting to last sitting. जैसे मॉनसून सेशन, समर सेशन, विंटर सेशन, फ्रॉम फर्स्ट सिटिंग टू लास्ट सिटिंग. मतलब फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम ऑल एमपी सिट टुगेदर टू द लास्ट टाइम ऑल एमपी सिट टुगेदर. दिस टाइम पीरियड इज नोन एज सेशन. Who constitute session? President. So please remember, who constitute, who invite for the house? President. Who constitute session, give notification of session? President. अगला है sitting. आप समझिए, sitting is when all the MPs. It all depends upon the will. कितने करने हैं डिपेंड करता है, कितना सेशन आपको रखना है, डेज पे डिपेंड करता है. विल ऑफ कोर्स प्राइम मिनिस्टर, प्रेसिडेंट की कोई विल नहीं होती. ठीक है, मतलब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में यही लिखा होता है विल ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट, बट द टेन्योर इज डिसाइडेड बाय बेसिकली द प्रेसिडेंट. द प्रेसिडेंट कैन एंड द सेशन व्हेनेवर ही वांट्स, ऑफ कोर्स ऑन द रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ Prime Minister. In theory, on himself. अगला adjournment. Adjournment क्या होता है? When every sitting ends, मान लेते हैं in the morning we convened and by the evening we concluded the functioning of the house today. So the speaker says that the today's today's sitting is hereby adjourned. अब दो चीजें हैं. If he says today's sitting is adjourned and we will reconvene at this date at this time, so that will be known as adjournment only. Adjournment means ending of a sitting, but if we declare the time of reconvene of the sitting, then it is called adjournment. If we do not mention time and date, then it will be called adjournment sine die. दो टर्म है. एक है adjournment. Adjournment means we came together. मान लेते हैं the session started from today, and today at the 10 o'clock we all people came together. By evening, the speaker will say that today's work of the parliament is hereby ended and the house is adjourned. We will reconvene maybe tomorrow, जब भी मन करता है speaker का. We will reconvene, say for example, 3 days later, at this date, at this time, at this place. That is called adjournment only. But if the speaker says that today's functioning of the house ends and the house is hereby adjourned, और खत्म, और कुछ नहीं कहता, चला जाता है, इसका मतलब the house has been ended, the sitting has been ended with indefinite adjournment. अब कब दोबारा हाउस आएगा किसी को नहीं पता. तो कौन डिसाइड करेगा? ऑफ कोर्स स्पीकर. मैंने अभी आपको बताया जब सेशन चल रहा होता है तब स्पीकर डिसाइड करता है. मैं दोबारा रिपीट करता हूं टू अवॉइड द कंफ्यूजन. सेशन की स्टार्टिंग और एंड बोथ आर डन बाय प्रेसिडेंट, बट इन बिटवीन सिटिंग्स आर डिसाइडेड बाय स्पीकर. दैट्स व्हाट आई टोल्ड यू इन नेशनल इमरजेंसी, if the house is in session but not having a sitting, मान लेते the speaker said today that we will have a next sitting after 1 month, but in between emergency is imposed, so you can 1/10 of the MPs can give a notice to speaker because session चल रहा है. House sittings are not happening but session is functioning. तो session और sitting में फर्क कर लीजिएगा. Sitting is the functioning of the house at that day. It is controlled exclusively by the speaker or chairman. Depend करता है किस हाउस की बात हो रही है. And session starting and end is controlled by president. Clear? Adjournment and adjournment sine die. Clear है? कुशाली वार्ता indefinite. Session तो चल रहा है ना आपका, sitting नहीं हो रहा है. हाँ, of course speaker will again issue notification if it happens. Generally क्या होता है, sign die बोला नहीं जाता. Sign die happens when at the last sitting. After the speaker will say the house is hereby adjourned, खत्म कहानी, and goes back. So it will be assumed that the house has been adjourned without any date. तब क्या होगा? That comes to the next part. Then the president को तभी issue कर सकता है. Then the president will issue the notification of prorogation. Prorogation means end of session. Who issues prorogation notification? President. And चलो अब इसे एक काम करते हैं, जोड़ के समझते हैं सबको. Let's say the new session has to start, say for example आज क्या है पता नहीं 15, let's say 20 से start होना है. So today the prime minister will tell to the president that send invitation letter to all the MPs that we are about to have a session of parliament. Then the president will send the letter today to everyone. Generally now it is sent electronically. Depend करता, हो भी सकता है नहीं भी. That all depends upon the notification of the president. But president invite जरूर करता है. That in that invitation the president will say that the house is hereby being reconstituted. You all are invited at this date, at this time, at this place. That is decided. Now what happens? Session start, or we all will come on that date. The speaker will preside on the sitting, and then they will be the business of the house. A business could generally be divided into 3 parts. स्टार्टिंग में देयर विल बी अ क्वेश्चन आवर. Any MP. MP means any MP, either from the majority party or minority party. Remember, Constitution does not treat anyone as majority and minority party. All MPs are equal. Minister अलग होता है. All MPs are equal. So any MP can raise any question to any minister, known as question hour, and the minister must reply. That's how accountability comes. After that, there is 0 hour. 0 hour में no business happens. 0 hour में you are sitting, you can chat, you can debate, you can ask anything, you can make pass comment on each other, whatever you want to do. 0 hour. And after that, start the agenda of the house. Agenda में which bill will be taken up, at what time, which issue will be taken up, who will speak, who will not speak. ये सब decide करता है speaker, along with advisory committees. Parliament has committees. They advise the speaker कैसे क्या करना है. ठीक है. अब let's say President issued a summon or invitation to all MPs. All MPs came to Delhi. The house start at 20th of February. Okay? The house start in the morning. By evening 4 o'clock, the speaker will say, the agenda of the house hereby concludes for today. The house is adjourned and we will meet again at this date, let's say 21st of February at 10 o'clock at the New Delhi New Parliament House. तो अगेन 10 o'clock पे everyone will come at the house. सेम ड्रामा चलेगा फिर से, फिर अगले दिन, और मे बी अ गैप कैन बी गिवन इफ द स्पीकर फील्स. एक मान लेते हैं इन बिटवीन सिटिंग चल रही थी आपकी, एक इंपॉर्टेंट प्रपोजल आता है किसी का भी, एंड द स्पीकर फील्स दैट इट रिक्वायर्स टाइम टू स्टडी. द स्पीकर विल से एज द न्यू प्रपोजल हैज कम एंड इट इज अ लेंथी प्रपोजल, सो वी विल अगेन मीट 5 days later at this time at this date. आपके पास अब 5 दिन का टाइम है क्या करने के लिए? To read the proposal so that you can debate in parliament effectively. उसके बाद ये चलता रहेगा. Ultimately at the end of the sitting, when the session of the house has to end, the speaker will say the house is hereby adjourned. बस. That will be known adjournment signed die. Then the president will issue a notification that the session of the house is hereby prorogued. सेशन खत्म, घर जाओ. ठीक है. ऑनलाइन पीपल क्लियर हाउ इट वर्क्स? ठीक है. लास्ट हमारे पास बचता है, दैट इज व्हाट यू कॉल डिसोल्यूशन. Dissolution is applicable only to Lok Sabha because Lok Sabha has a tenure of 5 years. So at the end of the 5 years, the president issue a notification. इसमें किसी की recommendation की जरूरत नहीं. President does it automatically. The president issue a notification that the house is hereby dissolved. It is an invitation to the election commission to reconstitute the people. तो इलेक्शन कमीशन डिसोल्यूशन जब होगा तो हाउस खत्म हो जाएगा. Then the election commission will give recommendation to the president of all the people it has chosen through elections. Election 6 महीने पहले स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं. Election will go on. People will be chosen by the candidates will be chosen by the people. Election commission will create a recommendation chart and that will be given to the president. That the earlier house dissolved it and issue a new notification that the new house with following people has been reconstituted, and that's how the new parliament meets. Clear? So in this process, one thing is clear: the president has a bigger role. Except for sitting, the president does everything. President constitutes the session, president prorogues the session, president dissolves Lok Sabha, and all things happen on the recommendation of prime minister. So basically, the prime minister controls the legislature too much. That is what I told you. The biggest problem with parliamentary democracy is that executive and legislature do not have separation of powers. Sorry. That is not applicable in presidential democracies. Presidential democracies में the executive and legislature are properly separated. Separation of power is better there. ठीक है, क्लियर है? चलिए इसे लिख लीजिए. Write it down. Write the organization of the house. With this, write down first constitution of the house. First, write down constitution of the house. Within this, write down the house. The house is constituted. The house is constituted by the proclamation. By the proclamation of the president. Proclamation of the president. Next, session. Session में write down. It ranges from first sitting. From first sitting to the last sitting. First sitting to the last sitting of the house. Full stop. The constitution mandates. The constitution mandates that there should be at least one sitting. At least one sitting within 6 months. Within, sorry हमने क्या लिखा? At least one session, sitting नहीं है. There should be at least one session within 6 months. ठीक है, full stop. It means at maximum. It means at maximum a session can be delayed by the executive. Can be delayed by the executive for 6 months. Delayed by the executive for 6 months. Now put a subheading, reforms. Within session, put a subheading, reforms. Reforms में write down, under the constitution, the president constitutes a session. The president constitutes a session based on the recommendations of the prime minister. Based on the recommendations of the prime minister. Full stop. It is believed to give too much power. TOO. It is believed to TO2 to give too much power to the executive. Too much power to the executive. Full stop. It is needed to be amended. It is needed to be amended to empower any 1/10 MPs, any 1/10 MPs of Lok Sabha / Rajya Sabha, 1/10 MPs of Lok Sabha / Rajya Sabha to recommend the president to constitute the session to recommend the president to constitute session of the parliament. Constitute the session of the parliament. Full stop. Next para में लिखिए. Next para में write down. Parliament is an institution. Parliament is an institution of accountability. Is an institution of accountability of the executive. Institution of accountability of the executive. Full stop. Bringing this reform will empower the opposition This reform will empower the opposition to bring government to account. To bring government to account by question answer sessions in parliament. By question answer session, hour होता है वैसे, question answer hour in parliament. ठीक है, full stop. Now write down adjournment. थर्ड लिखिए adjournment. Please write down the speaker slash chairman dissolves the sitting at the end of the day or in between at the end of the day or in between if required full stop. It is known as adjournment. Full stop. There are two cases. That is, there are two cases. That is, if the speaker slash chairman provides the date and time for the reconstitution of the house, then it is known as the adjournment, semicolons. But if no date and time is mentioned, if the date and time is not mentioned, then it is known as adjournment sine die. ठीक है, डन एवरीवन. नेक्स्ट राइट डाउन प्रोरोगेशन. नेक्स्ट प्रोरोगेशन. प्रोरोगेशन में राइट डाउन द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया, the president of India after adjournment signed die. The president of India after adjournment signed die of the last sitting. Adjournment signed die of the last sitting issues a notification. Issues a notification for ending the session. Issues a notification for ending the session known as prorogation. 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 क्या फुल स्टॉप. तो इसमें भी हम एक काम कर सकते हैं. वी कैन एम्पावर बट आई बिलीव दैट पार्लियामेंट इज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ अकाउंटेबिलिटी. और खासकर व्हेन नोबडी टॉक्स फॉर द पीपल, अपोजिशन डज. व्हेन आई से अपोजिशन, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल पार्टीज. कोई जो अपोजिशन में होता है वो जनता की बात करता है. पार्टी में जो होता है वो नहीं करता है, तो कोई भी हो. ठीक है. फिलोसफी में वेरी, किसी का कोई फिलोसफी है, कोई कुछ सोचता है, वो अलग बात है. बट नॉनदलेस दैट्स हाउ इट वर्क्स. व्हाट वी कैन डू इज वी कैन अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन टू चेंज. एक तो हमने समझ लिया. एक और चेंज, that adjournment signed die should be decided by the house itself. And if 1/10 of the MPs we can add it. If 1/10 अगर ये नहीं करना तो president, chair, speaker and chairman both belongs to the leading party. Because chairman is often the president, vice president, और सबको पता है vice president often belongs to the ruling party and speaker always belongs to the ruling party. So they can have biases. मान लेते you want to raise a very important question. अब 6 महीने की लिमिट है. दे विल कॉल अ सेशन, 2 दिन में सेशन खत्म. कितना भी छोटा रख लो, कौन रोक सकता है आपको. तो 2 दिन में क्या डिस्कशन कर लोगे आप. So that can happen. So what we have to do is we have to amend constitution and we can put it that if there is adjournment signed die or prorogation, and in that case if 1/10 of the MP recommends to the president to continue the session, it shall be continued. So has to dilute the power of the government, because government decide करती है प्रोरोगेशन को. ये नहीं होना चाहिए. हालांकि उसमें हम लिमिट पुट कर सकते हैं that the session which has run at least for example 2 months, उसमें ये नहीं लगेगा. वरना ऐसे तो अपोजिशन जिंदगी भर चला लेगी. तो ऐसे तो कहेगी जिंदगी भर हम पार्लियामेंट चलाएंगे. तो उसमें भी थोड़ा हम रिफॉर्म ला सकते हैं. तो देयर शुड बी रिफॉर्म विच शुड एम्पावर ऑल पार्टीज. अभी क्या गवर्नमेंट इज टू पावरफुल. सेशन वो चला तो उसमें क्या होगा, इट कैन हैव, जैसे अभी हम जब आगे डिस्कस करेंगे वी विल अंडरस्टैंड देयर आर लॉट ऑफ गुड ट्रेडिशंस इन अदर कंट्रीज, पर्टिकुलरली यूएस में. यूएस में बहुत अच्छा ट्रेडिशन है जो हम आगे भी डिस्कस करेंगे, नोन एज फिलीबस्टर. फिलीबस्टर, FILI बस्टर. अब फिलीबस्टर में क्या होता है, इफ यू स्टैंड अप टू स्पीक until unless you yield, वहां पे yield करना पड़ता है आपको. अगर आप बोलेंगे I yield the house, मतलब मैंने अपनी बात बोल रही है, अब जिसको बोलना बोलता रहे. बट यूएस में ट्रेडिशन है, इफ यू डू नॉट yield your position, you can speak for as long as you want. There was a person who talked for black rights movement against. He was from Republican Party, और आपको पता है Republican Party is like the right wing party of America. He spoke, I think, for 16 or 17 days continuously. 16 for 17 days वो बैठा ही नहीं. He was opposing that bill that was giving rights to the black people to vote or something, कुछ rights था. ठीक है, but he was advocating against, वो एक अलग debate है. But it's a very beautiful tradition. इससे क्या है, nobody can suppress your voice. अब उसमें क्या हुआ, he was speaking continuously. अब क्या हुआ, the member walked out. जैसे हमारे में होता है ना, वॉकआउट कर दे, जैसे अभी तेजस्वी ने करा बिहार में. तो उसमें एक और कॉन्सेप्ट है that if 1/10 of the member, the quorum बोलते हैं इसे, if the quorum of the house is not present, then any member can demand the sitting person, जो भी chair person होगा, that please bring the quorum. मतलब if they order, then MPs must come there, otherwise you can be disqualified. So the presiding officer, उसने बोला, सब लोग उठ के भाग गए कि पागल है ये तो, and he said that I want the quorum एंड सो द प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर ऑर्डर्ड द मार्शल टू ब्रिंग देम। तो सबको पकड़ पकड़ के उठा के लाया गया, ठीक है। जो भी है, इट्स अ वेरी, मतलब ठीक है, इट इज ऑफन यूज्ड टू बेसिकली स्टॉल द लेजिस्लेशन। आपको लेजिस्लेशन पसंद नहीं कर रहे तो उसे स्टॉल करने के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं इसे, बट नॉनदलेस अ वेरी गुड ट्रेडिशन। ब्यूटीफुल भी है, बुरे इस्तेमाल भी हुए हैं इसके, बट नॉनदलेस ट्रेडिशन अच्छा है। इसमें क्या, यू हैव द राइट टू स्पीक, nobody can stop you, government cannot say कि the house is agent, तुम बोल रहे हो, हाउस एजेंट हो गया, भागो यहाँ से, जैसे इंडिया में होता है। इंडिया में इफ अपोजिशन स्पीक टू मच, आप नॉइस कर रहे हो, आप बोले जा रहे हो, तो बट द स्पीकर डज, द हाउस इज एयर बाय एजेंट, मिलेंगे 2-3 घंटे बाद, ठीक है। तो दैट इज फ्यू रिफॉर्म्स हमें जरूरी है। लाना चाहती है, लेकिन स्पीकर की परमिशन में डिस्कस नहीं कर सकता। पहले यू हैव टू गिव अ रेजोल्यूशन, यू हैव टू गिव अ, हम पढ़ेंगे जिसे बोलते हैं मोशन। पार्लियामेंट में मोशन से इस्तेमाल होता है। मोशन इज अ प्रोसीजरल टूल। कुछ भी करने से पहले मोशन लगता है, कुछ नहीं होता, पेपर होता है, पेपर पे आप लिख देते हैं आई वांट टू डिस्कस दिस या आई वांट टू इंट्रोड्यूस दिस। अब मोशन इंट्रोड्यूस करना पड़ता है, अगर आपको कोई डिस्कस करना है, तो ना कि मन करा कुछ भी बोल दिया, यू हैव टू इंट्रोड्यूस अ मोशन इन द हाउस एंड दैट मस्ट बी एक्सेप्टेड बाय द स्पीकर। और फिर वो टाइम देता है कि इस मोशन पे हम डिस्कशन कब करेंगे, ठीक है। इसलिए कई बार अपोजिशन वॉकआउट क्यों करती है, वो कहती है हमें अभी डिस्कस करना है, स्पीकर कहता है कल करेंगे या परसों करेंगे या कभी नहीं करेंगे। तो उस केस में वो कहते हैं या तो अभी करो, फिर वो धरना करने लग जाते हैं, वहां संसद में चीखने लग जाते हैं, तो स्पीकर क्या करता है, एडजन कर देता है उसको। साइन डाई होगा तो वो कर सकता है, साइन डाई होगा तो प्रोरोगेशन कर सकता है। तो है सम वीकनेस। देखिए हमने ये क्यों रखा था, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली बात है, व्हेन यू स्टार्ट अ न्यू वेंचर, कुछ भी आप नया करते हैं, तो यू डू नॉट नो ऑल द साइड्स। तो उस समय में क्या होता है, यू लर्न फ्रॉम योर मिस्टेक्स। तो ठीक है, जब हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना था, तब किसी ने नहीं सोचा था ना कि ऐसे भी ड्रामे हो सकते हैं। तब सभ्य लोग थे, नहीं लिटरली, बिकॉज मैंने आपको बोला, जिस चीज को आप कमाते हैं उसकी इज्जत भी ज्यादा करते हैं। तो वी वॉन्ट दिस डेमोक्रेसी वेयर यू कैन स्पीक इन पार्लियामेंट विदाउट, जैसे आपको अगर पता हो, पॉपुलर स्टोरी है, मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ, टाइम तो हमारा हो ही गया वैसे भी। तो वाजपेयी जी वाज स्पीकिंग इन द पार्लियामेंट एंड ही वाज vehemently speaking against Nehru. And it's a popular story. Vajpayee told this in parliament. Later on, when Nehru मर गए थे, he told this in parliament. Nehru ji met me outside, and he said that you will become prime minister one day, because he found him as speaker, vocal speaker. तो नेहरू ने बोला था, मुझे उम्मीद है that you will become the prime minister of this country one day. तो why he said it? Because उस समय वाजपेयी was very young. Nehru was old. Vajpayee was a young person, and he was speaking to the India's tallest leader. इंडियाज टॉलेस्ट लीडर इन फ्रंट ऑफ हिम इन द पार्लियामेंट। और ये नहीं था कि इसे एक्सपेल कर दो, सस्पेंड कर दो, टर्मिनेट कर दो, जैसा आजकल आपको देखने को मिलता है। हमारे पार्लियामेंट का स्टेटस बहुत गिर गया है। पार्लियामेंट में गाली दी जा रही है अब तो, दैट मिस्टर बिदूड़ी। हाँ, वो मारा भी रिसीव कर देते। ये है थोड़ा, मतलब अब स्टैंडर्ड बहुत ही गिर गया है। उस समय के लीडर्स की बात अलग थी, बिकॉज मैंने बताया दे फॉट फॉर दिस लिबर्टी, बहुत मेहनत से मिली थी। देखिए इसमें एजुकेशन का रोल नहीं, इसमें मेहनत का रोल है। हमने बहुत सेक्रीफाइस से इस डेमोक्रेसी को कमाया था, तो हमें इसकी इज्जत ज्यादा थी। आज के लोगों को खैरात में मिल गई है ये, ठीक है। दे हैव गॉट दिस फ्रॉम देयर फॉरफादर्स, सो दे डू नॉट हैव दैट काइंड ऑफ अटैचमेंट टू इट। जैसे बाप की कार है, जैसे जैसे ठोको पीटो, जब अपनी आती है भाई संभल के चला, ठीक है। एनीवे जो भी है, ऐसी कहानी, बहुत ऐसी कहानियां हम आगे देखते रहेंगे। एनीवे क्लियर है। तो एक लास्ट चीज और है, हम पे थोड़ा सा टाइम है, लिख लीजिए इसे लास्ट को, डिसोल्यूशन। लास्ट राइट डाउन डिसोल्यूशन। डिसोल्यूशन में राइट डाउन, द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया, the president of India issues a notification, to end the life of Lok Sabha. Issues a notification to end the life of Lok Sabha. It is known as dissolution. It is known as dissolution. full stop. Rajya Sabha is not subjected. Rajya Sabha is not subjected to dissolution. Is not subjected to dissolution because only 1/3 MPs of Rajya Sabha, because only 1/3 MPs of Rajya Sabha retires every second year. MPs of Rajya Sabha retires every second year, ठीक है, but the house continues. But the house continues forever. Full stop. ठीक है. So only लोक सभा is subjected to dissolution. राज्यसभा को आप डिसॉल्व नहीं कर सकते, वो कंटिन्यू करता है forever. ठीक है. चलिए, so we have this for today. Tomorrow we will continue our journey. Bye bye everyone. Have a nice day. We'll meet again tomorrow. मैं एक और बड़ी कमाल की कहानी थी, अगर आपको पता हो. एक ये शायद कुमार विश्वास ने बताई थी, मैंने क्लिप देखी थी. उसमें नागार्जुन थे. ही वाज अ पॉपुलर राइटर और पोएट समथिंग. तो देयर वाज अ स्टोरी ही वाज टेलिंग. एक सेमिनार में उन्होंने बताई थी कि नेहरू वाज सिटिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ नागार्जुन वाज अ यंग पोएट और समथिंग. तो उन्होंने बोला, क्या बोलते हैं, देश